Well, welcome to 700 Club Canada. Thanks for joining me today. You know, we constantly talk about prayer on this show, and the reason is we actually believe it works. Prayer actually works. Prayer not only can transform and change your circumstances and the things that you're asking God for, but first, it changes you, because prayer is actually talking to God and having a relationship with God. And I personally believe that if we don't get to know God in a personal way, then often we're just found a little dry in our life. Well, we're Pursuing God's Presence is a book that we're going to hear about today. A practical guide to daily renewal and joy is a transformative roadmap to experiencing daily spiritual renewal and lasting joy. And author Dr. Roger Helland is here today to talk about some of the practical tips. So welcome to 700 Club Canada. Roger, really nice to have you with us today.
Lori, thank you so much for the opportunity to chat with you and your viewers.
Well, you know, you have a story behind, a book always has a story behind it. And I read that God took you from being a pagan to a pastor. So, you know, just quickly tell me what happened to you?
If a person doesn't know what a pagan is, you can look it up. But basically, it's a really bad person. I'm not proud of that, but it's in the past. So I grew up in Southern California and non-Christian family. Jesus Christ was a swear word in our family, and never went to church, never read the Bible. Religion, Christianity was a foreign concept in my upbringing. So I got involved in all the things that young people get involved in my home state of Southern California. But a friend of mine, during the Jesus movement, so the Jesus Revolution movie, actually, I was saved on the fringes of that. He became a Jesus freak back then. And at the time, I was in the U.S. Army, and I was home on Christmas leave, and I was, believe it or not, I was peaking on LSD. And he shared the gospel with me. It was amazing. I felt the penetrating force of the Spirit. I look back on that. I know it's the presence of the Spirit who invited me to accept Jesus, and I did. I prayed my first prayer. Jesus, if you're real, I want to believe. And that's, in a nutshell, my conversion. A couple of weeks later, I had what I call a personal Pentecost. I believe, the filling of the Spirit in a way that was transformational. I feel like light and love just invaded my soul, my spirit, my mind, my heart. And I was ecstatic. I knew there was a change. So Jesus met me in my darkness. Yeah.
You know what? That's incredible. And I mean, you're evidence of fruit of the Jesus Revolution. And you've written a book that you say a presence-centered life changes
Right.
everything. And I hear in your story, like you encountered the power and presence of God. So tell me, what does it look like to live this presence-centered life, and how does it actually change everything?
Yeah, great question. So really the key verse that I unpack at the very beginning in this book, which in a lot of ways is a culmination of a lifetime of study and experience and you know, coming to understand a better, you know, personal awareness of seeking the presence of God and experiencing his presence, is found in Psalm 105, verse 4. Basically, it says this: seek the Lord and his strength, seek his presence, or literally in Hebrew, his face, continually without interruption. That's really the tone for the book. I think we can point to many scriptures that invite us to seek God, his kingdom. Everyone who seeks God must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. And there's a reward that we will find God as we search for him, as if we would search for a missing child or our wallet or our iPhone. And it's transformational because he meets us in our place of personal relationship. It's not just an academic pursuit. It's actually one that's given from his glory, his kavod. The weight of his presence can permeate our lives and activate miracle and healing and revelation and direction and guidance and peace and joy and his presence for pleasures evermore. Yeah. Psalm 16:11. So that's sort of the overall framework where I try to capture what does it mean to seek experience and host God's presence.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, in your story, Roger, I hear that like you encounter God. This isn't, even though you're an academic and, writing books and teaching, pastoring for years, this is really a constant relationship and experience of God's presence. And you mentioned the Hebrew word kavod. Tell us, what does it mean and how does it help us understand the presence of God more fully?
Yeah, so the Hebrew word kavod is used hundreds of times, primarily in the Old Testament. It's usually translated as glory, and that's about the best that we can do. It's hard to capture it. It's kind of like the word shalom, which sort of fundamentally means peace, but it's greater and deeper than that. But that's the best we can come up with. The word kavod refers really to the manifest presence of God, his glory, his person is conveyed through the radiance, the magnificent perfection and beauty and holiness of who God is. And so when Habakkuk, declares that the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the glory, the kavod of God as the waters cover the sea, that is the invitation to experience that kavod, the weight of his glorious presence. Literally, there are times where I've been in meetings and gatherings where it was so thick that the weight of the presence of God was so strong. I just had to get on my knees or on my face. And we see that in times of renewal, revival, but in personal experience with the Lord. I love
Well,
the word kavod.
you know what? I do too. And I've experienced that too. We want that for every viewer to know that this is not just about what's in your head, but you can actually experience the presence of God. So, someone watching today, like, what does it look like then to be aware and to welcome the presence of God in our everyday life?
I think there's a couple ways, and I cover this in different chapters. In fact, my sort of, I think, unique contribution in this topic helps people really explore what it means to pay attention to, seek, and experience God's presence in their personal life, in the life of holiness, in their family, in their workplace, in their churches, out in the community. It's comprehensive. It's like the air that we breathe. The presence of God is everywhere all the time. But then there's those special times where we encounter him, or he encounters us, really. He moves in closer. And I think prayer is probably the central posture and practice that really opens up and activates that awareness of God as we look around even to creation. I call it the practice of enchantment, that we're enchanted with how the creation manifests the glory and power of God, but also personal awareness through reflection, through scripture reading, through the prophetic, through worship, through scriptural living, I call it, and through abiding in Jesus, the fruit of the vine, being in a relationship with him garners that fruitfulness that comes through cultivating his presence. And it's available to us on a daily basis.
Well, that is the truth. And in your book, Roger, you've outlined pursuing God's presence. It's available to all of us. I love the words you use, invitation, and this welcome of God's presence. It's available. Like, this isn't something that's just for, some, but for all. Thank you so much. If you want a copy of Roger's book, go to 700club.ca, Pursuing God's Presence. I encourage you to get it. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Lori, it's been fantastic. God bless all your viewers out there.
Thank you, and to you too.